Settle in. The story starts here. The pain started while I was standing in the middle of my best friend's baby shower. 1 second, I was holding a plate of cake. The next, the room tilted. A sharp pain ripped through the right side of my stomach so violently that the plate slipped from my hand and shattered on the floor. Maya, my best friend, rushed toward me. I tried to tell her I was fine, but when I opened my mouth, nothing came out. My knees buckled. By the time the ambulance arrived, I was curled into a ball on the floor, sweating through my dress. The paramedic pressed down on my abdomen. I screamed. "We need to move," he said. Inside the ambulance, everything blurred together. The siren, the oxygen mask, the paramedic telling me to stay awake. My brother Julian calling my phone over and over because someone had already contacted him. When we reached St. Matthew's Medical Center, the emergency room was chaos. Nurses surrounded me. Someone cut open the side of my dress. Someone else started an IV. A doctor ordered blood work and a CT scan. Less than 30 minutes later, a young resident entered my room holding a tablet. "Ms. Bennett, your appendix appears to have ruptured. There's fluid in your abdomen and your blood pressure is dropping." I stared at her. "What does that mean?" "It means you need surgery immediately." Immediately. The word barely registered. "I want my brother." "He's on his way, but we may not be able to wait." A nurse pushed consent forms toward me. The letters swam across the page. I signed where she pointed. Then they began rolling my bed toward the operating room. That was when another nurse stepped into the elevator with us. She looked older than the others, maybe late 40s, gray streak near the front of her dark hair, blue scrubs, a small butterfly tattoo on the inside of her wrist. She didn't say anything at first. She simply watched the other nurse push the button for the surgical floor. The elevator doors closed. Then the lights flickered, just once. The older nurse moved closer to my bed. She reached under the blanket and grabbed my hand. Her fingers were ice cold. "Listen to me," she whispered. I turned my head toward her. Her eyes were wide, terrified. "Whatever you do," she glanced at the other nurse who was facing the elevator doors. "Don't let Dr. Harris touch you." My heart stopped. "What?" She tightened her grip. "Ask for anyone else." "Why?" Before she could answer, the elevator doors opened. The older nurse immediately released my hand. The other nurse turned around. "Who are you talking to?" I looked beside me. The older nurse was already stepping out of the elevator. "That nurse." The woman pushing my bed frowned. "What nurse?" "The one who was just standing right there." She looked into the empty hallway, then back at me. There was no one else in this elevator. The operating floor was colder than the emergency room. Too bright, too quiet. I started pulling at the blanket. "I don't want Dr. Harris." The nurse stopped pushing my bed. "What did you say?" I said I don't want Dr. Harris operating on me. Her face changed. Not confusion, recognition. "Who told you Dr. Harris was your surgeon?" The nurse in the elevator. She stared at me for several seconds. Then she walked to the desk and whispered something to the charge nurse. Within minutes, 3 hospital employees surrounded my bed. The charge nurse, the resident from downstairs, and a woman in a gray suit who introduced herself as hospital administrator Evelyn Ward. "Ms. Bennett," Evelyn said calmly, "can you describe the woman you saw? Blue scrubs, gray streak in her hair, butterfly tattoo." The charge nurse's mouth tightened. Evelyn glanced at her. It was quick, but I saw it. "You know who she is," I said. "No," Evelyn replied too quickly. "We're simply trying to understand what happened. She told me not to let Dr. Harris operate." The charge nurse looked toward the hallway. Evelyn lowered her voice. "There is no nurse currently assigned to this floor who matches that description." "Currently assigned?" Evelyn's expression hardened. "Ms. Bennett, you are very ill. Pain, medication, and fear can sometimes cause confusion." "I know what I saw." Before she could answer, the double doors opened. A tall man walked toward us wearing navy scrubs, early 50s, silver at his temples, calm eyes, no rush in his steps. Everyone around him seemed to straighten. "Dr. Harris," Evelyn said. He studied my face. "I'm told you don't want me as your surgeon. I want someone else." "May I ask why?" "A nurse warned me about you." His expression barely changed, but one of his hands slowly curled into a fist. "What did she look like?" I described her again. Dr. Harris looked at Evelyn. You told me she was gone. Evelyn's jaw tightened. This is not the place. Who is she? I demanded. No one answered. Then my brother burst through the doors. Maya! Julian rushed toward me and grabbed my hand. He looked from me to the doctors. What is happening? They say I need emergency surgery. And? A nurse told me not to let him operate. Julian immediately stepped between Dr. Harris and my bed. Then he's not operating. Dr. Harris remained calm. Your sister has a perforated appendix. Every minute we delay increases the risk of sepsis. Find another surgeon. The other attending surgeon is already in surgery. The nearest available replacement is at least 90 minutes away. Julian pulled out his phone. 90 minutes is better than letting someone operate after a nurse warned her. Dr. Harris looked directly at me. You have the right to refuse me, but I need you to understand the risk. Are you dangerous? I asked. The hallway went silent. Dr. Harris looked almost offended, then tired. No. Have patients died under your care? Yes. Julian scoffed. Fantastic answer. I'm a trauma surgeon, Dr. Harris continued. Some patients reach me when death has already entered the room. Have you been sued? Julian asked. Dr. Harris didn't answer immediately. That hesitation was enough. Julian started typing on his phone. Seconds later, his eyes widened. Oh, you have got to be kidding me. He turned the screen toward me. The headline read, Local surgeon accused of altering patient records after mother's death. Below it was another article. Second family files wrongful death claim against St. Matthew's surgeon. My mouth went dry. Evelyn stepped forward. Both cases were dismissed. Dismissed doesn't mean innocent, Julian said. Dr. Harris looked at Evelyn. You should have told her everything. And violate patient confidentiality? Evelyn snapped. Stop speaking in code, I yelled. Who was the nurse? Dr. Harris slowly removed his surgical cap. Her name is Tessa Morales. The butterfly tattoo, the gray streak. She worked here? I asked. Yes. What happened to her? Evelyn answered. She was terminated 6 months ago. Why? Dr. Harris looked at me. Because she accused me of killing her sister. Julian demanded another surgeon. Evelyn repeated that no one else was available. My blood pressure continued falling. A monitor beside me started beeping faster. The pain was becoming unbearable. Dr. Harris stepped closer. Tessa's sister died after surgery 3 years ago. I was the attending physician listed on the chart. Listed, Julian said. Were you her surgeon or not? Dr. Harris looked toward Evelyn again. Something passed between them, something neither wanted to say. I supervised the case. That is not what he asked, I said. Dr. Harris's voice lowered. No, I did not perform the procedure. Then who did? Evelyn interrupted. That has nothing to do with your sister's condition. Julian looked at her. It has everything to do with it. A wave of pain tore through me. I screamed. The monitors erupted. The resident rushed forward. Her pressure is 70/40. Dr. Harris immediately took control. We're out of time. Julian grabbed my hand. Maya, what do you want? I looked at Dr. Harris, then at the doors, then back at the empty hallway where Tessa had disappeared. I don't know. Dr. Harris leaned close enough that only I could hear him. You don't have to trust me as a man, but right now you need to decide whether you trust my hands. Before I could answer, the resident shouted, She's losing consciousness. The ceiling lights stretched into long white lines. Julian's voice faded. The last thing I heard was Dr. Harris yelling, Get her into the operating room now. When I woke up, Julian was asleep in a chair beside my bed. My stomach felt like it had been split open. A machine pumped medication into my IV. I tried to speak. My throat burned. Julian jerked awake. Oh my God. He grabbed my hand. You're okay. Dr. Harris? He operated. I closed my eyes. Julian squeezed my fingers. You crashed before you could sign anything else. They said it was life or death. Did he save me? Julian hesitated. Yes. Dr. Harris entered a few minutes later. He looked exhausted. Your appendix had ruptured, he said. The infection had already spread. We cleaned the abdominal cavity and removed the damaged tissue. Am I going to be okay? If you respond to antibiotics? Yes. I stared at him. Why did Tessa blame you? He pulled a chair closer. Her sister, Elena, came in for what should have been a routine procedure. There was a complication. She died 2 days later. You said you didn't perform the surgery. I didn't. Then who did? Before he could answer, Evelyn appeared in the doorway. Dr. Harris, may I speak with you? No, I said. He can speak with me. Evelyn forced a smile. You need rest. I need the truth. Dr. Harris stood. Later. He walked out with her. The moment the door closed, Julian leaned toward me. I found something else. He held up his phone. A photograph filled the screen. Tessa stood beside a smiling woman with the same eyes. Her sister, Elena. Beside them was Dr. Harris. His arm was around Elena's waist. Not professionally. Intimately. The caption had been posted 4 years earlier. Another perfect weekend with my favorite person. I stared at the photo. He knew her, I whispered. Julian nodded, more than he admitted. That night, I woke to the sound of someone closing my door. Tessa stood at the foot of my bed. This time, she wasn't wearing scrubs. She wore a black coat and carried a large purse. I reached for the call button. Wait, she said. You lied to me. No, they lied to you. You said not to let Dr. Harris touch me. He saved my life. Tessa's face twisted. He is an excellent surgeon. I stared at her. Then why did you warn me? Because being talented doesn't make him safe. She stepped closer. My sister Elena wasn't just his patient. I saw the picture. They were having an affair. Was he married? Yes. Did his wife know? No. Did the hospital know? Tessa laughed bitterly. The hospital knows everything. She pulled an envelope from her purse and placed it beside me. Inside were printed emails between Dr. Harris and Evelyn. One line was highlighted. If the Morales chart is reviewed, all 3 of us go down. I looked at Tessa. All 3? My sister's procedure was performed by a surgeon who should never have been in that operating room. Who? Before she could answer, the IV pump began beeping. A burning sensation moved up my arm. My chest tightened. Tessa. My tongue felt heavy. She looked at the IV bag. Her face drained of color. This isn't your antibiotic. She lunged for the call button. Alarms exploded around me. Nurses rushed in. Tessa backed toward the wall as my vision blurred. Someone yelled for a crash cart. Then Dr. Harris burst through the doorway. He looked at the IV bag and shouted, "Stop the infusion!" A nurse disconnected the line. What was she given? Dr. Harris demanded. The resident checked the label. Her face went pale. Potassium chloride. Dr. Harris turned toward Evelyn, who had entered behind him. That could have stopped her heart. Evelyn stared at the bag. Who ordered it? The resident looked down at the chart. You did. Everyone looked at Dr. Harris. He stepped toward the computer. I never entered that order. Evelyn's voice dropped. Your credentials were used. Tessa laughed from the corner. You see? Security guards entered the room. Evelyn pointed at her. Remove that woman. She didn't touch the medication, I said weakly. You don't know that. I was standing right here when the pumps started. One guard grabbed Tessa's arm. She pulled away. Ask who had access to his login. Dr. Harris froze. Tessa looked straight at him. Ask Evelyn where her son is. The room went silent. Julian stood from the chair. Her son? Tessa smiled without humor. Dr. Cameron Ward. The young resident beside the computer looked frightened. Julian stared at Evelyn. Your son works here? Evelyn didn't answer. Dr. Harris did. Cameron is the surgeon who operated on Elena. Everything unraveled after that. Not slowly, all at once. Dr. Cameron Ward was Evelyn's only son. He had been a surgical fellow when Elena Morales entered the hospital 3 years earlier. He wasn't supposed to lead her procedure, but Dr. Harris had been called away to another emergency. Cameron insisted he could handle it. During the operation, he made a serious error. Elena began bleeding internally. Instead of calling Dr. Harris immediately, Cameron tried to fix it himself. By the time Harris returned, Elena had lost too much blood. She survived the operation, but died 2 days later. And Dr. Harris signed the chart, Tessa said. We were all gathered in my hospital room. Tessa, Julian, Dr. Harris, Evelyn. two members of hospital security, and Cameron, who had finally been located in the physician's lounge. He was younger than I expected, maybe 35, perfect hair, expensive watch. He looked more annoyed than afraid. You signed off as the attending surgeon, Tessa continued. You let everyone believe you performed it. Dr. Harris's face was hollow. Yes. Why? I asked. Evelyn answered. Because Cameron would have lost his medical career. Julian stared at her. A woman died. It was a complication. It was negligence, Tessa snapped. Cameron rolled his eyes. You weren't in the operating room. My sister told me before she died. That shut him up. Tessa's voice trembled. Elena woke up long enough to say that Cameron ignored her when she told him something was wrong. She said he kept telling everyone she was anxious. Dr. Harris looked at the floor. Tessa turned toward him. And you knew she was telling the truth. Yes. You were sleeping with my sister. You told her you loved her. Then, when she died, you protected the person responsible. Dr. Harris finally looked at her. I protected the hospital. Tessa slapped him. The sound cracked through the room. No, you protected yourself. Evelyn stepped forward. That is enough. Tessa turned on her. You threatened to expose his affair. Evelyn's face changed. There it was. The final piece. Dr. Harris had been married. Evelyn knew about Elena. After Elena died, Evelyn told Harris that if he refused to alter the records, she would expose the affair, destroy his marriage, and claim he had operated while emotionally compromised. In exchange for his silence, Evelyn buried the internal investigation. The lawsuits were dismissed because key parts of Elena's chart had been changed. But that still didn't explain my IV. Dr. Harris turned toward Cameron. You used my credentials. Cameron scoffed. Why would I do that? Because Tessa returned. That has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you, Tessa said. I sent Dr. Harris copies of the original chart last week. Evelyn looked at Dr. Harris. You had the original chart? He nodded. I plan to turn it over to the state medical board tomorrow. Cameron's face tightened. You were going to destroy all of us. No, Dr. Harris said. I was finally going to tell the truth. Cameron laughed. And you expect anyone to believe that after 3 years? Dr. Harris walked toward him. You accessed my account this afternoon. You ordered a lethal dose under my name because if Maya died, the hospital would blame me. My license would be suspended before I could testify. You cannot prove that. The young resident spoke from the doorway. Yes, we can. Everyone turned. She held a tablet. The order was entered from the workstation in the physician's lounge. Cameron's smile disappeared. The security camera shows you entering the room 2 minutes before the order was placed. Evelyn whispered his name. Cameron. He looked at his mother. You told me to fix it. Her mouth fell open. I told you to contain the situation. What did you think that meant? Evelyn stumbled backward, as though he had struck her. Cameron looked around the room, realizing too late that he had just confessed in front of witnesses. Security moved toward him. He tried to push past them. Julian stepped in front of the door. You're not going anywhere. Cameron swung at him. Julian ducked. Security tackled Cameron against the wall. He shouted, kicked, threatened everyone in the room. And as they dragged him into the hallway, he screamed at his mother. You said this hospital would always protect us? Evelyn stood completely still. Tessa looked at her. It did. Then she glanced toward my IV. Until tonight. Dr. Harris resigned the next morning. Evelyn was removed from the hospital before lunch. Cameron was arrested for tampering with my medication. The medical board reopened Elena's case, and this time, the original records didn't disappear. Before I was discharged, Dr. Harris came to my room one final time. He wasn't wearing scrubs, just a dark coat. He looked smaller without the hospital moving around him. You saved my life, I said. He nodded and helped cover up someone else's death. His eyes lowered. Yes. Are you a good doctor? He thought about it for a long time. I was. That's not what I asked. He looked at me. I don't know anymore. At the door, he stopped. Tessa was right to warn you. About your hands? No. He gave a sad smile. About the kind of man they belong to. After he left, Tessa came in carrying flowers. She placed them near the window. I'm sorry, she said. For what? For frightening you. You thought you were protecting me. I was. No, I said. You were trying to punish him. She looked away. Both things were true. That was the part no one wanted to admit. Dr. Harris had saved my life. Tessa had exposed the truth, and both of them had used me to fight a war that started long before I entered that hospital. As Julian wheeled me toward the exit, we passed a wall filled with photographs of St. Matthew's most celebrated doctors. Dr. Harris's portrait was already gone. Only a pale rectangle remained where it had hung. And I realized something. The most dangerous people aren't always the ones without talent. Sometimes they're the ones everyone trusts because of it. Every story leaves a question. If a stranger warned you about the doctor who was about to save your life, would you listen?